Hello and welcome to today's webinar, LinkedIn. My name is Kelsey Keefe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a career consultant at the UConn Center for Career Development. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's webinar. You should see your attendee interface on your computer desktop on the left. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing your questions into the chat pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. Since this is a previously recorded webinar, these questions will be emailed to me and answered within 3 business days. Note that a recording of today's webinar will be emailed to all webinar registrants within 24 hours. Before we get into creating a profile and using LinkedIn, I want to show you one privacy setting. On the top bar, click Me. Under Account, go to Settings and Privacy. You're going to scroll down to How Others See Your LinkedIn Activity. And then under Profile Viewing Options, you have a few choices. When you look at someone else's LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn will tell the other person that you looked at their profile. You can choose how much information LinkedIn tells that person. You can choose your full name and headline, your job title and employer, or anonymous. Know that in return, you see the same information when someone else views your profile. If you allow your name and headline to be shown to others, you will see others' names and headlines when they look at your profile if they also allow that. If you're set to anonymous, you will only see anonymous in return. It can be beneficial to allow people to see your name because it lets them know you're active and engaged and can be helpful for networking. However, you might be more comfortable having a more private setting, especially as you are setting up your profile, and you should always set your privacy level to what you feel comfortable with. You have a lot more options for customizing your settings, but I'm just going to focus on that one privacy setting for now. Now I'm going to get into your profile. Your profile serves 2 main roles. First, it is an extension of your resume. Your profile can be more comprehensive than what will fit on a 1 to 2 page resume. It also builds your professional online reputation. Companies will search you through online services, including people search services, social media, Google, and your online presence needs to be something you would be okay with an employer seeing. If you have a LinkedIn profile, by default, it shows up first in Google search results, so you can use that to direct employers to a professional online presence. In fact, from a statistic from 2018, 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn to search candidates, so you want to have a strong profile for them to check. Now I'm going to go through the main components of your profile. One thing to keep in mind as you fill out your profile is that LinkedIn provides a lot of pre-filled suggestions to help you as you fill out each field. Selecting the suggestions where it makes sense can help your profile be more searchable. For example, you want to make sure you select the pre-filled University of Connecticut option under Education to affiliate yourself as a student or alum of UConn. And if the recruiter is specifically searching for UConn students or graduates to hire, you want to make sure you show up in that search. So this top section here is our header section. For the name, you can use your preferred name. This should match the name you use on your other application documents so recruiters can easily find you. For the headline, you can affiliate yourself as a UConn student. You can do it based on your current position or a career aspiration, like this example here. For the location, you should choose the closest metropolitan area where you live or where you will be searching for opportunities. If you're at the store's campus, the closest metropolitan area would be the Hartford, Connecticut area. If you happen to be searching for opportunities in more than one location, unfortunately LinkedIn will only allow you to choose one, so you'll have to pick something. For your profile photo, use a high-quality professional photo. It should not be a selfie or a group photo that you've cropped your face out of. We typically offer free professional headshots at our career fairs. For the banner photo up here, you can leave it as the default, or you can choose something like Jonathan Husky has chosen, a nice picture from campus. This area right here shows your most recent experience and school. this automatically pulls from those sections from down below. In this case, both of them are University of Connecticut. Some students have said they think it looks funny. Nobody really thinks anything of it, and it's totally fine. For the contact information, Jonathan Husky hasn't chosen to provide any additional contact information. If you feel comfortable, you can list your UConn email address if you want to give people the option of connecting with you that way, but it's totally optional. And again, you should always put out only what you feel comfortable with putting out. For the connections, this lists the number of connections. If we were directly connected, I could click on this and see who Jonathan Husky's connections are. More connections on LinkedIn allows you to see more in the platform, because then you would have more second connections. So connections are those people you're directly connected with. Second connections would be friends of friends, or connections that your connections have, so you have that one person in common. Moving down to the About section, this is like an online version of your elevator pitch. So you can highlight your background, skills, interests, and future goals. You can write this in the first person, like the example here, or you can do it in third person. In this example with Jonathan Husky, he starts with his major and career aspiration. He highlights one of his past experiences and 3 skills he has used in this experience. He ends by saying he's interested in networking and internship opportunities. After the top of your profile, the first place where you'll start listing your experiences is the experience section. This can be work and internship experience, it could be research experience, or you can highlight any other sort of experience, such as an activity or club that you would like closer to the top of your profile. LinkedIn does have an organization section further down, but if you want that to be closer to the top of your profile because you feel it's really important or really relevant, you can put that in the experience section instead. To show you how to add an experience, I'm going to go to my personal profile. You would click the plus button here, and I'll show you an example with Research Assistant. Here you can see that it's actually giving me the option to pick the pre-filled. And then I can select the University of Connecticut option. Storrs, Connecticut is not a location that's pre-filled, but that's fine. You can choose to update your headline automatically, or you can uncheck that. And then here is where you would put the description for that experience. So these are any of the bullet points you have listed on your resume. You might have more bullet points. If your resume can only fit maybe 3, but you have 5 in total that you would like to talk about, LinkedIn is a great way for you to talk about more of that experience. Also, on your resume, typically you're only having bullet point statements for a description, but in LinkedIn it is okay if you want more of a paragraph format. What's really common at UConn and other large companies is to specify the particular department or unit that you were working for, especially since Research Assistant is really broad and that could be in a number of different departments on campus. One way to do that is you could add it to the description. I've also seen it really common to add it next to the title. So instead of selecting the pre-filled option for Research Assistant, I can just type in my own thing and do Research Assistant, comma, and I'll specify the department. I'm going to exit out. The next section would be education. Again, you would click the plus icon and you can specify University of Connecticut. Okay, there's a pre-filled option. For the degree, you could list Bachelor of Arts, Science, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Science and Engineering, Master of Arts, Doctor of Philosophy. Whatever your degree is here, there's probably a pre-filled option. You can maximize your searchability by selecting one of those. For field of study, you can put in your major or program. use one of the pre-populated options to optimize searchability. So for example, the formal name for the psychology major is psychological sciences. That's what you might have listed on your resume. Here, LinkedIn just classifies it as psychology. You would put your start and end year, and for grade, this is where you could specify your GPA. We especially recommend putting that if it's 3.0 or higher. You could also put Latin honors or other honors here after graduation. Activities or societies could be clubs and activities or organizations you have here. There is a separate section listed below under accomplishments if you would like to have more information about your organizations. That section has space where you can add bullet points versus this is just a list. The description is where you can add other information, like if you have a double major, a minor, a concentration for your major. Maybe you're an individualized major and you have a title with that. If you have a graduate certificate program, all of that extra information can be listed under description. I also see a lot of students list any honors or awards or scholarships here. Maybe you're in the honors program or you got Dean's List. There is a separate honors and awards section if you want to put that information here, but if you want to keep that with the education section, you can list it in the description. And then the next section would be licenses and certifications. This is where you would list any field-specific certifications you have. It's really common to see CPR, first aid. I have Husky Safe Zone and the City Research certification listed here. The next section is volunteering. I'm going to switch over to Jonathan Husky's profile to show you an experience. Here he's listed Huskython, and just like the experience, he filled out the pre-filled options and added a bullet point statement. The next section would be the skills section. I'm going to switch to my personal profile so I can show you an example of that. So scrolling down, you can see that skills is where you would list any technical skills, transferable skills, or industry-specific skills. This is unlike your resume. So on your resume, you would ordinarily only list those technical hard skills like softwares, lab skills. LinkedIn is a little more broad where you can also list transferable skills like organization and leadership, as well as industry specific skills like I've listed career coaching and resume writing here. The skills you add are automatically categorized by LinkedIn into these categories. So I haven't placed them here. LinkedIn has automatically categorized them by industry knowledge, tools, technologies, and so forth. You can rearrange the order of these skills within each section, as well as which skills show up as your top 3 by default. So by default, LinkedIn is going to put the skills you have the most endorsements for as your top 3. But if you click this little edit icon, you can actually pin which 3 you want to show up. This is a great way to direct people to endorsing you for certain skills, since they're most likely endorsed with skills are already listed as the top 3. It's also a great way to showcase what you want to be known for, since to see more than 3 skills, people have to click show more. You might have noticed these little numbers next to each skill. These are endorsements. So these are when one of my connections, they can click a button that says endorse and say, yes, Kelsey has career coaching skills. People can only endorse you if there are a connection and if you already have listed that skill on your profile. So for a while, you're going to have to list skills and they'll be blank like this while you're gaining endorsements. They're a great way to add some legitimacy to some of the skills you have, and you can always control what is listed. Oops. So the next section would be recommendations. Recommendations carry a little bit more weight than the skill section because it's kind of like asking for a letter of recommendation. Someone has to write you a paragraph describing you and recommending you rather than just clicking one button to endorse you. If you are asking someone for a letter of recommendation, it's always a great idea to ask your recommender if they would also add a recommendation to your LinkedIn profile. It's kind of a shorter version of a letter of recommendation, and if they're already writing something for you, it's not a lot of effort to kind of tailor that down to be shorter paragraph for your LinkedIn. I've given to just students I've written letters of recommendations for. Again, as with anything on your LinkedIn profile, you can always control what shows up. So if someone writes you a recommendation, you can improve that before it shows up on your profile. After recommendations is the accomplishments section. This section has many subcategories. If you click the plus icon, you can see all of those. It includes publications, patents, courses. This is where you can list some relevant coursework. We recommend 3 to 8 courses if you want to list some relevant courses. Projects, this could be academic projects, it could be senior design, it could be a thesis, dissertation, it could be a project you did for your internship. It's pretty broad what this could include. Honors and awards. So this is a separate section if you have a lot of honors, awards, and scholarships you'd like to list. Some people opt to list it instead in the description under the education section if you'd like it further to the top, or maybe you have one you'd like to list rather than several. Test scores would include field-specific exams such as CPA or for actuarial majors and all those actuarial science exams you have. If you would not include any college or graduate school entrance exams or any test scores you might have gotten on an exam for a class. These really should be field-specific professional exams. For language, you should be honest and realistic with your level of proficiency. Kind of think about if you have another language listed on your profile, you should be okay with an interview. In an interview with the interviewer switching to that language and being able to carry on the conversation. So you want to be very realistic with your level of proficiency. You should only include English if you're applying internationally. Otherwise, if you have a US-based location and your profile is in English, it is assumed that English is a skill you have. Organizations can include clubs, activities, leadership. In my organization section, if I expand this here, you can see that I have listed the professional associations that I am in. When I was an undergraduate student in college, I had my clubs and activities listed under organizations because it does provide a place for you to put your title, and if I clicked edit it, I could add a description like bullet point statements of what I did for that. Now that I have graduated several years ago and I have involvement in professional associations, I have moved my clubs and activities to be listed under education without bullet points, and I have put my professional associations here. That is an evaluation you'll have to make as a current student, especially if you're an undergraduate. Having clubs and activities listed here gives you more space. I also said earlier that you could list them under experience if that you think that's more appropriate and you would like that higher on your page. You have a lot of flexibility here, so just do what you feel most comfortable with. If you have questions about that, you're more than welcome to come meet with a career coach at the Center for Career Development, and we can go over that with your profile for you. I'll switch over to Jonathan Husky's profile so you can see an undergraduate student example. So here he has something listed under honors and awards. Under organization, he has listed one of his clubs with the title and a description of what he's done. And then he does have a project from one of his classes. The last section is interests. Jonathan Husky has 3 listed here. I'm going to switch to my personal profile to show you a little bit more detail. So under interests, you can click see all, and it will show you the 4 different categories of interests. So first you have influencers. These are people that have a large following and are influential in their field. For companies, you can follow companies and organizations on LinkedIn. This is a great way to show interest and stay up on what they post, especially if they're posting jobs. I have followed, being in higher ed, I have followed schools, I have followed media outlets that publish articles for my field, so like Chronicle of Higher Education, Inside Higher Ed. I've also followed my professional organizations. For groups, I will explain a little bit more about this later, but you can follow or you can join groups to see what's going on in your field and connect with other members. And schools are just a subcategory of companies. These are just companies that are also happen to be schools. So going back to the top of my profile, one last thing to keep in mind as you edit your profile is this option of edit public profile and URL. So you can go ahead and click that, and now you can see what your profile would look like to someone you're not connected with. What does it look like? What's the public view? Over here on the side, you have a lot of toggles for editing visibility of certain sections. Again, you should take a look at these settings and set it to something that you feel most comfortable with. And then the last thing you want to take a look at is edit your custom URL. So by default, LinkedIn will make your URL for your profile some variation of your name with a bunch of numbers at the end of it. You probably want to be putting your employer-ready LinkedIn profile on your resume or maybe in your email signature. And it's helpful to share a link that's a little bit easier to read. So it's recommended that you change this to some variation of your name. I have my first name, middle initial, and last name. Some people do like a first initial and last name. If you have a really common name, you might have to add some numbers at the ends. People understand. Just try to change it from the default one to something a little bit easier for a recruiter to type in or for you to share. Once you initially get your profile set up, you'll probably want to start adding some connections. So I'm going to move over to Jonathan Husky's profile. We are not connected, so it gives you a good example. You would simply just click this blue connect button. If you don't know them or you don't know them very well, I would recommend adding a note. I could say, hello, Jonathan. I could type a sentence about why I wanted to connect and sign my name. Note that you only have 300 characters, so you do have to keep it pretty brief. One thing to note is that it can be valuable to be connected to definitely people in your industry, but also friends, family, classmates, and colleagues, even if they are not in the same field. For example, you might know someone in a different field, maybe they're your cousin, and they're in a different field, but maybe they are connected to someone, so they would be your second connection. They're connected to someone that might be in your field that you want to talk to, and they could facilitate an introduction. The other thing to keep in mind is under home, when you're viewing your newsfeed, I can see information about my second connections, and that's just another way to broaden your network. One thing to note is if you ever encounter someone you want to connect with and they don't have this blue connect button here, I have found that if you click more, there's an option listed here to connect. I'm not sure why it's sometimes hidden, but that's a place you can look if if for some reason you can't find the blue connect button. So one of the uses of LinkedIn is to broaden your network, and networking can be very valuable. So most positions, like jobs, internships, so forth, are not advertised and are part of what we call the hidden job market. And even if the position is advertised, your best chance of getting hired is if you're personally referred. And LinkedIn is a really powerful tool to connect you with others and build your network. So groups are a great way on LinkedIn to build your network. There's a few different types of groups. So you can think about groups based on your affinity. So there's a UConn alumni group. There's a UConn Center for Career Development group. There's a UConn College of Liberal Arts and Sciences group. So you can think about these types of affiliations you have on campus or with and join groups based on that. There's also groups for professional organizations. So for example, if you are wanting to become a physical therapist, joining the American Physical Therapy Association might be a good group to join. And then you can also do it on interests. So, for example, there's a group called the Research Methodology and Statistics in the Social Sciences, and this is a large group with people with that common professional interest. So to search for group, you just go up to the search bar. I am going to start with UConn as an example, and you can either press the magnifying glass or click See Results for UConn. Up here, under More, I'm going to toggle to the group option, and now you can see all of the groups that have UConn in the name. So you could join a general University of Connecticut group, there's one for graduates, there's some for different schools and colleges. And I'm going to click the UConn College of Liberal Arts and Sciences group to show you some more. So in a group, you can see conversations. So this is information that members have posted. Some groups are mostly run by the administrative person. Some groups have jobs. This particular group doesn't have job postings, but some groups are really dedicated to job postings. And then in this upper right corner, there's the members information. So I'm going to click See All. So ordinarily, LinkedIn only lets you message people you are directly connected with. So if you remember when I went to connect with Jonathan Husky, I could click connect. I had 300 characters to write him a customized message before connecting. If I had tried to directly message him, LinkedIn would have told me I needed to pay for a premium subscription. However, if I go to the group, I can look at all of the members here. I can see that I'm second connection with Bree Diaz. I can click message, and through this group, I can actually send Bree a direct message. So that's one way that you can message someone on LinkedIn that you're not directly connected with. And groups are a great way to do that. Another way to think about that is if you find someone on LinkedIn that you're really interested in talking to, maybe they have a position you're interested in, or they work at a company that you're interested in working at, and you want to learn more about what that job is like, you could either ask to connect with them and send them a nice connection request, or you can go to their profile, see if they're in any groups, see if you can join any of the groups, and message them through that group you now have in common. LinkedIn is also great for researching information about a particular school or company. So for example, I can look at information about alumni from the University of Connecticut. So to do that, you would go up to the search bar and search for University of Connecticut and click this main school option that shows up. On the sidebar, I can click alumni, and I have a lot of information about the LinkedIn users that have listed University of Connecticut under school or the education section of their profile. So here I can see the top 20 places they live, where they work, what they do, so this would be the industry they selected, what they studied, what they are skilled at, so these are skills they have listed on their profile, and then this is information about how you're connected with them. You can also search for a lot of keywords like job title or occupation or other information about the industry. So I'm going to show you an example with communication. So going over to what they study, I can see if communication is listed. Here it is. And here is some more information about where they live. I can see the top 20 places that they work. I can see the top 20 industries they have and some of the skills they have. These skills are especially helpful if you maybe are a communication major and you're looking to see, if I want to work in this field, what are some of the skills that I should be developing? And if I do have those skills, you can think about listing those on your profile. If you scroll down here, you can see information about alumni as well as current students, because they do get pulled in depending on what dates you select up here. So you can see information about alumni. And I'm going to collect this person to learn more. So here we can see some information about this person. We can look at their past experience, so we can see that they, shortly after graduation, it looks like they went into public relations and human resources, and you can see all the different places they've worked, the different job titles they've held, and their professional progression into their current title. That's really helpful if you're interested in doing what they do. You can see how they got there. Under education, we can see that they were a double major in English and communication, and that they have since gotten a master's degree. Here we can see some of their skills. This is especially helpful if you are interested in going into the same field. You can work on developing these skills or making sure that you're listing them on your profile if you already have them. Here we can see some information about interests. So if we wanted to message this person directly, we could find a group in common. This is also helpful to see, like, if what types of groups is this type of occupation involved in. So you can see that if you're interested in PR or human resources, you might consider joining one of these groups. The Alumni Search tool is really helpful for seeing what you can do with your major or a certain graduate program, looking for someone with your dream job and seeing how that person got there, or looking for people at a company you're interested in and seeing what they do. Other companies also have a similar search tool. So if I go up here, I've already pulled up Travelers. So if I search for a company, I can actually see all of the employees on LinkedIn, or I can come over here and click People, and you'll see a very similar search where you can see what, where they live, what school did they go to, what industry are they in, what kind of majors or programs does Travelers hire, what are they skilled at, so what skills do they have listed on their profile. And you can come down here and see information about employees that work at Travelers, and perhaps reach out to one of them if they are have a position you're interested in and you want to learn more about what that role is like. LinkedIn also has a job board. This can be a great way to search for internships and jobs. I'm not going to go into this in a lot of detail because it's pretty straightforward. It's like a lot of other job boards you might have used. This is just a small bit of what you can do with LinkedIn that I've gone over. There is more you can do with LinkedIn, so if you're interested in something in particular, you are welcome to schedule an appointment with a career coach to go over that more in depth. That wraps up my content on LinkedIn. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. These questions will be emailed to me and answered within 3 business days. Thank you for attending today's webinar, LinkedIn. Visit career.uconn.edu to schedule an appointment with a career coach if you would like your LinkedIn profile consultation to critique your profile or show you more ways to use it. Once you leave today's webinar, you will be directed to an evaluation for the presentation, and we would appreciate if you would complete that and provide your feedback. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.